Hey everyone, Pastor George here. Welcome to our Wednesday Bible study recap. And today in Bible study, we did Philippians 2, verses 1 through 11. And remember the overall theme of Philippians before we get into this, because it's important. Because remember, the overall theme of Philippians is encouragement. And Paul is encouraging the Philippians, but this is kind of the passage where he says, even though you guys are doing great, like don't get a big head, right? So the big focus on this passage is humility. He tells them that we work for the benefit of others, right? We count other people as more significant, more important than ourselves. Why do we do this? Because that is what Jesus did for us, right? And he launches into what is known as the Christ hymn of Philippians, which talks about Jesus, talks about who he is in relation to God the Father, why what he did was so important, things like that. And so we have Jesus here showing us an example of humility, right? We have this beautiful wine, right? Who, though he was in the form of God, did not count equality with God thing to be grasped, but emptied himself by taking the form of a servant, slave, born in the likeness of men, and being found in human form, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. And so we have that as our standard, right? That's what we as Christians need to live up to. We have to live up to this humility that was exemplified in Jesus Christ. And that's really tough to do, right? And the reason that is tough to do is because we are kind of naturally selfish, right? We are touched by sin, and we look for our own needs instead of others. So today we talked about what is the greatest need of people. And of course, people gave good answers: love, community, food, air, right? Things like that. But as Christians, we recognize that all of these things are temporary, right? We know that you hunger for food and you hunger for food again. And as Christians, we do want to meet people's needs, right? We do want to love them. We do want to be in community with them. We do want to feed them and clothe them and give them shelter. But we also want to understand that the greatest need that all of us have is to know the saving love of Jesus Christ, right? And so that is kind of the message that Paul is giving here, right? We humble ourselves to serve others. Why do we do that? Well, not for our own glory, right? Because that's not what Jesus was about. But rather, we do this to reach out to others and to show them Jesus' love, hoping that they come to understand what that's all about, right? And so we talked about that. We also talked about Jesus's role in the Trinity, right? So we did some Trinitarian stuff today. We talked about the hypostatic union, his two natures, and you can see all of that in here, right? We have Jesus kind of interacting with God the Father here. And so we talked a little bit about that. There were questions about that as well. But at the risk of committing a heresy and not having enough time to talk about it, you can kind of see me individually if you're really interested about the Trinity and how that plays out in this passage, or you can send a question to the mailbag and I'd be happy to answer it. But in short, Jesus's humiliation here, not in the sense of being humiliated like we normally talk about it, although that's a part of it, but humbling himself, right? Pouring out of himself, right? Taking on the likeness of man. Most religions think that or want to make us into gods, right? We actually know that a God became a man, right, and dwelt among us, and died for our sins, right? So he humbles himself, and then he is exalted. And his exaltation, if you know your Westminster Catechism, you might know this answer already, but his exaltation consists in his raising from the dead and being given the name that is above every name, right? The very name of God, and people recognizing that. He had it before, but now people recognize it, right? So that at every knee, that it's at the name, every knee should bow to him, right? Oh, I got a call. Let's see. Is it important? Oh, I guess it kind of is. Hold on one second. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that, everyone. Anyway, um, important thing to remember is exaltation of Christ. He is raised for us, right? And in that way, shows us that we can achieve in some way what he achieved only through what he has done for us. So Paul's whole point, just to return to kind of where we started, his whole point here is to remind us that we struggle, right? We fail, and we succeed. And when we succeed, we should know that we're doing that through God's grace and not to get like too puffed up and stuff like that. So that's what we talked about today in general. So I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. I'll see you guys next week for our Bible study, but certainly tomorrow for a mailbag question. And keep them coming. I actually have a backlog, which is exactly what I want. So any question, remember, you can send them to me anonymously too. So please reach out. All right. All you have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. Peace out.